Bienvenidos, aloha, welcome into Sunset Rewind. Alex Crawford, former Oregon State tight end Howard Kroom here, coming to you from historic Sheue Field at Huntington Beach High School, the home field for the Oilers, the Fountain Valley Barons, and the Edison Chargers. Always good to be on location at one of the great Sunset League stadiums. Howard?
Absolutely. We got multiple Sunset League teams that play here. As you said, historic stadium. A lot of huge football games have happened here, so love being on Huntington Beach High School's campus.
It was a huge week in the Sunset League. Before we get into the breakdown, take a second, follow us on social media at Sunset_Rewind, and more importantly, bookmark our website live now, sunsetrewind.com, your number one source for all things Sunset League stats, recaps, player breakdowns, all that good stuff. And we might be sold out on hats, but if you didn't get one yet, at your next home game, check out. We had a limited number, and I saw a lot of people rocking them out and about at the Sunset League games this weekend.
I got mine. Go grab yours. Like you said, limited number. So sunsetrewind.com and grab a hat at your local home game.
First game we're going to break down for you today, Los Alamitos picked up win number 7 on the season, 56-7 over Fountain Valley High School right here on Thursday night at Sheue Field. Howard, as expected, Los Al offense dominant. Malachi Nelson, 6 touchdown passes, 1 rushing TD, and the Griffins right now, they're rolling along, end of the season, getting ready for the playoffs.
Well, this is an offense that's hard to stop. We talk about it every week. There's just an abundance of talent. 7 times the offense touched the ball in the first half, 7 times they scored. Like you mentioned, Malachi Nelson was a part of all 7 of those touchdowns, 6 through the air, 1 on the ground. And one thing that Coach Fenton, TJ Fenton, told us, the offensive coordinator for Los Al, he loved the fact that the ball was spread around to all the skill players. You know, Deandre Moore, Makai Lemon, Alec Wills, Ethan O'Connor, Nygel Osborne caught a touchdown. So all these guys were able to catch touchdowns from Malachi Nelson. Just a very balanced attack by the Griffins. They executed, and they got everything that they wanted.
Also, Husan Longstreet, the backup quarterback, the freshman, who we interviewed at Battle at the Beach on his 15th birthday, he got in the game and he scored his first varsity touchdown for the Griffins. TJ Fenton talked to us about that when we talked to him on Saturday.
It was super exciting. I think I was the most excited guy on the sideline, and just seeing everything about it, seeing the nerves right before going into your first varsity game, and then overcoming those nerves and scoring your first varsity touchdown. That's a big deal. And it was really fun to have that moment, watch that moment, and celebrate that moment with him on the sideline.
Well, like you mentioned, Alex, we interviewed Husan Longstreet back in the summer, and we knew right away when we talked to him, this kid is going to be serious. He's got great size, good physical tools. He's a smart kid, hard worker, just a young man that you're going to want to keep your eye on because he's got a bright future in the Sunset League. And you know, in addition to all the offensive success that Los Al had, we got to give a shout out to the defense. You know, they pitched a shutout in the first half, only gave up 1 touchdown late to Fountain Valley. They had 6 tackles for loss, multiple sacks, pressures all night on Owen Tomko, the Fountain Valley quarterback. And when you're getting that kind of performance, you're getting that kind of pressure, you shut down the run game, and you make it almost impossible for Fountain Valley to get anything going.
And let's give credit to the Barons offense. Tomko able to connect with Reyes for 1 touchdown. That's really a tough matchup. Fountain Valley going against that Los Al defense, a team that has CIF state title aspirations. So the Barons, they got a taste of some of the best in the state, and the junior quarterback able to find Reyes for a TD.
Yeah, Reyes, couple catches. Scott Peschke had a couple catches as well. So obviously it wasn't a great night for the Fountain Valley offense, but a few bright spots in there. They were able to get a couple of things going. And on defense, Kane Elroy had some big tackles, as he always does. So Fountain Valley, a team that's growing. We knew this was going to be a tough game for them, but credit to Los Al for, making it tough all night.
In what was one of the most anticipated games in the Sunset League this season, Edison hung on to beat CDM Friday night here at Sheue Field 28-20, picking up win number 5 on the season for Edison and handing the Simkins their second Sunset League loss. Howard, it was a heavyweight battle. What are your initial thoughts on that game?
Well, all the highly anticipated games in the Sunset League this year seem like they've delivered, and it was no difference at Sheue with CDM Edison. Like you said, a heavyweight battle between 2 of the best teams in Sunset League, 2 of the best teams in Orange County, honestly, and it was back and forth. There were multiple lead changes. CDM ultimately didn't have enough. Edison, pulled out the win, but CDM had opportunities. Early in the first half, they had opportunities to tighten the game, take the lead, but Edison capitalized on all the CDM mistakes, and proved to be the second best team in Sunset League and an opponent that's going to be tough for the rest of the season and throughout the playoffs.
Well, senior defensive end Austin Grbic from the Edison Chargers had himself a monster night. Our reporter Jonathan Ortiz caught up with him after the game.
Austin, describe your guys' performance on defense tonight. You guys made some pivotal stops, especially during the latter half of the game.
Yeah, we were pretty electric out there today. We had some penalties, but our main goal was to stop the run. I think we did that very well.
Well, Austin Gbic's a guy that all offenses game plan around. You have to. He's a terror on the defensive line. He makes his presence felt every game. And in this game, while CDM is trying to make a comeback, they're trying to find a way to put some points on the board, Austin Grbic comes out and gets 3 sacks in the fourth quarter alone, has a solo tackle. Seems like he's in on every play. One of the sacks was on third down, end up forcing a punt as CDM's trying to come back. On another drive, he got 2 sacks in one drive. CDM had to settle for a field goal. So when you have a guy like that on the defensive line, getting penetration, putting pressure on the quarterback, it kind of controls the game and stops everything you're doing as an offense. So Austin Grbic, excellent player. We've known about it. All of the teams in Sunset League know about it, and I think he's a guy that's going to get some county-wide honors at the end of the year.
Absolutely, and deservingly so. Also, it was a good running back battle between the junior from CDM, Evan Sanders, and the senior, Troy Fletcher from Edison, who's been having a monster season. And Edison head coach Jeff Grady talked to us about the success that Troy Fletcher has had this year.
He's put himself in this position. I know you guys know what I'm talking about. I mean, when you work the way Fletcher and some of our other guys have worked, I mean, you kind of create your own luck, so to speak. And the way he's done things, he's earned this.
Well, week after week, Troy Fletcher fills up the stat sheet. He's an offensive guy, defensive guy, special teams. He's all conference, all league in all of those areas. He's just a well-rounded football player. He's a competitor, and you love to watch him play. He had north of 100 yards receiving, had 6 carries for over 70 yards, so 10 yards every time he carries the ball. On defense, he had some big pass breakups. He's just an all-around contributor for his football team, and it's a pleasure to watch him play.
Oh, he's so versatile, so explosive. Also, Edison, Ashton Hurley got his first receiving touchdown of the year, so good to see the modern-day transfer get in there and score some points.
Yeah, and that's just a credit to Parker Awad, who we haven't talked much about, but every week we're more impressed every week because he continues to grow, looks so comfortable in that Edison offense, and it's evidenced by the receiving numbers. As you mentioned, Ashton Hurley caught a touchdown, Nico Brown caught a touchdown, Troy Fletcher had 100 yards receiving, Tyler Hampton had catches, Tucker Tripp had a receiving touchdown. Just all around, Edison is able to get the ball to different receivers, and they're just an offense that's clicking. And week after week, it's a pleasure to watch them get better as well.
Edison went into halftime up 21-10, but let's give credit to the CDM defense. They made stops in the second half, and then CDM came back, made a game of it in the second half. Obviously, Edison won by 8, but that CDM defense came alive in the second half.
Well, there were opportunities that were sparked by the defense. Jake Simkins had a big sack in the third quarter. Nathan Bloom had a sack in the third quarter. Mason Kubicheck had a pass breakup on third down. These are all plays that are giving the ball back to the offense, giving them a chance. Then in the fourth quarter, senior safety Tyler Brown had a huge interception that almost led to some points and could have continued the comeback, sparked the comeback for the Sea Kings. But ultimately, those hopes were dashed by a huge 55-yard touchdown from Troy Fletcher, and that was all she wrote for the Sea Kings.
Well, CDM, they're getting ready for a big Battle of the Bay, and Edison's getting ready for the Bell game, so it's rivalry week for both those teams. Excited to preview that on our preview show this week. And the third and final game we're going to talk about, Newport Harbor wins their second in a row, 45-27 against the Huntington Beach Oilers on Friday night at Davidson Field. And Howard, that was a huge game for both teams. Coach Brett Brown from Huntington Beach, he told his team, we win this game, we're in the playoffs. The Sailors, they're telling themselves, we have to win 2 out of our next 3, Fountain Valley, Huntington, and then CDM to get in the playoffs. They've done now 2 out of those 3 things. So a game with a lot of postseason and just season-wide implications.
Yeah, well, Harbor said they need to win 2 out of the next 3, but in reality, their goal is to win 3 in a row and punch their ticket as an automatic bid because they had to take care of business and beat Huntington Beach as they did. Now, next week, they got to beat CDM, and they're in the playoffs for sure. So there was a lot riding on this game. These were 2 teams that came in with senior quarterbacks, even though Harbor played a different quarterback than we anticipated, but two experienced teams that we thought were going to be fighting for the third or fourth place position in Sunset League. So the game delivered, and for the Newport Harbor Sailors, it came out the way they wanted it to.
Well, it all got started by junior defensive back Johnny Chaix, who blocked 2 punts for the Sailors in the first quarter. One of those he picked up off the ground and scored a touchdown, and that was the spark. Sailors went up 14-0 to start the game, and that's what they needed to get going. What a performance by Sailors special teams led by Johnny Chaix.
Yeah, Johnny Chaix had the game of his life, blocked 2 punts, scored a touchdown, as you mentioned. That's enough sometimes for a whole season on special teams, let alone for one game and one quarter. So when you're already up 14-0 and your offense has barely touched the ball, it's a good feeling. It gives you confidence. You're kind of playing with house money at that point. So you can relax. You don't have to be so tense, even though this game means everything to you and to your season. So that was a blessing for the Newport Harbor Sailors to allow themselves to just play their game.
Yeah, and then also I want to talk about junior running back Payton Irving. I know we were just talking about a great running back battle between Evan Sanders and Troy Fletcher, but Payton Irving looks every bit the part of the Sunset League running back of the year. Crazy amount of yards on the ground, through the air, 2 rushing TDs, 1 receiving touchdown, and we talked to Sailors head coach Peter Lofthouse about his junior running back.
Payton's a kid that we have really liked back even when he was a freshman. He showed a really good ability to run downhill, physical kid. And so last night was one of those he's a junior. It's that process that we've been talking about. And, the everything's kind of starting to line up for him. He's getting more familiar and comfortable with the reads and the run game and, protection-wise and out of the pass game.
Well, Payton Irving seemed like he was the entire offense at some points in the game for Newport Harbor. We knew, who do you think's getting the ball right here? It's going to Payton Irving. Whether it's 1st and 10, 3rd and 3, it doesn't matter. He got everything he wanted, and we have to give credit to the offensive line, particularly those 3 interior linemen, the left guard, center, and right guard, because these guys cleared a hole for Payton Irving. It seemed like he ran right up the A and B gaps and wasn't touched for 5 yards. And the way Payton Irving runs, once you get a hand on him at 5 yards deep, he's already got a full head of steam, so he's going to pick up a couple more yards. It was just a dominant performance. So when you get started in the run game like that, it opens everything up for you. You got Guitron-Moore at quarterback feeling very comfortable. Threw for 3 passing touchdowns and threw an absolute strike to Josiah LaMarque in the 4th quarter. It was a one-on-one fade on the outside. He anticipated where Josiah was going to be, put it right in the breadbasket. Only the receiver could catch the ball, and that sealed the win for Newport Harbor. So credit to the offense all the way around, the specialists, the skill guys, and the O-line. This was the performance that we expected to see all season long from Newport Harbor, and they finally realized their potential offensively this week.
While we're talking about the great performance from the Sailors, on the flip side, such a frustrating game for Huntington Beach. Spotting the Sailors 14 points of special teams miscues in the first quarter, penalties throughout the game, really costly penalties throughout the game. So tough for Huntington Beach. We talked to head coach Brett Brown about the Oilers shooting themselves in the foot in this game and throughout the season.
I feel like we beat ourselves a lot this year. We're not good enough to do that. I mean, no knock on the teams that beat us, and Newport's a good football team. They played their butts off, and had some good things going, but we're playing against Huntington Beach every night too.
Well, it's a frustrating way to go out. You spot the team 14 points, and you still end up having a decent night if you're Huntington Beach. You look down at the stats, A.J. Perez had 250 yards passing, 3 or 4 touchdowns. He probably had close to 60 or 70 yards rushing as well, so he had a good game, but the self-inflicted errors, the miscues, penalties, things of that nature, Coach Brown tells us every week, we're not good enough to beat ourselves and the opponent. So you shoot yourself in the foot, it's hard to climb out of those holes.
Yeah, and there were, like you said, bright spots and big moments for the Huntington Beach offense. A.J. Perez, Coach Brown told us this was probably the best game of his season, and Hideo Rey in the second quarter had some incredible catches. In fact, here's a one-hander that Howard and I called for the Sailors broadcast on TAR TV.
1st and 10, A.J. Perez takes a snap, time to throw. Test the rocket launcher deep, Hideo Rey!
That's a touchdown.
Oh my goodness! One-handed for the score. One of the best grabs you'll see at any level. Touchdown Oilers.
Well, that huge throw and catch came after Hideo Rey had a couple of drops, And I said it on the broadcast. That's how you know he's an excellent football player. He's got confidence in himself. His quarterback has confidence in him. Coach Brown has confidence in him because Hideo Ray is the go-to guy. Anytime the Oilers needed a play, they're looking to him. Short game, intermediate game, the deep ball, and he delivers. He had an excellent night, but the real issue was A.J. Perez was under so much pressure. He just couldn't get comfortable. He was constantly on the run. When he would drop back and try to sit in the pocket, he often had Connor Chenier, Jacob Carlone, these linebackers blitzing off the edge, or one of the defensive linemen sitting in his lap. So you got to give credit to this Newport Harbor defense for making it tough, even though the Oilers offense did find a way to get going at times. They just couldn't get anything consistent. And to make it even tougher on A.J. Perez, they were down 14 points, so they kind of had to throw the ball to try to come back. And then the Newport Harbor front seven made it impossible to run the ball, so the offense became one-dimensional.
And it doesn't get any easier for Huntington Beach. They take on Los Alamitos this week. Newport Harbor, they head into the Battle of the Bay on Friday with all the momentum in the world. That's going to be a real fun one. And we only got a couple weeks left of the season, so we got some playoff implications shaking out. We'll get to that in our preview show this week. Howard, it was a huge monster week in the Sunset League. Edison CDM delivered. Newport's homecoming game against Huntington delivered. More great football, and I can't wait to see how the playoff picture shakes out.
Well, week after week, that's what we're getting, great football. Seems like all these games are meaningful because of how close these teams are in talent and in record. So this week we've got another huge game coming up, as you said, with playoff implications for Newport Harbor in the Battle of the Bay. So I love it, and I can't wait to see more Sunset League football.
Absolutely. Follow us on social media at @sunset_rewind. Grab a magazine, grab a hat at your next home game, and bookmark our website. Check it out because we're putting out content on that website, stats and information that you can't get anywhere else, sunsetrewind.com. For my broadcast partner, Howard Kroom, and for all the players, parents, and coaches in the Sunset League, this is Alex Crawford saying from the 405 to PCH from Saddleback to the Pacific Ocean. You've been watching Sunset Rewind. Thanks for tuning in.